Bhagavad Gita chanting, Chapter 10, verses 1 to 10.
अथ दशमोऽध्यायः। श्रीभगवानुवाच भूय एव महाबाहो शृणु मे परमं वचः यत्तेऽहं प्रीयमाणाय वक्ष्यामि हितकाम्यया न मे विदुः सुरगणाः प्रभवं न महर्षयः अहमादिर्हि देवानां महर्षीणां च सर्वशः यो मामजमनादिं च वेत्ति लोकमहेश्वरम् असम्मूढः समर्थ्येषु सर्वपापैः प्रमुच्यते बुद्धिर्ज्ञानमसम्मोहः क्षमा सत्यं दमः शमः सुखं दुःखं भवो भावः भयं चाभयमेव च अहिंसा समता तुष्टिः तपोदानं यशो यशः भवन्ति भावा भूतानां मत्त एव पृथग्विधाः महर्षयः सप्त पूर्वे चत्वारो मनवस्तथा मद्भावा मानसा जाताः येषां लोक इमाः प्रजाः एतां विभूतिं योगं च मम यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः सोऽविकम्पेन योगेन युज्यते नात्र संशयः अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवः मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां बुधा भावसमन्विताः मच्चित्ता मद्गतप्राणाः बोधयन्तः परस्परं कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च तेषां सततयुक्तानां भजतां प्रीतिपूर्वकं ददामि बुद्धियोगं तं येन मामुपयान्ति ते
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति। Question. How is one able to grow spiritually from Aneka Roopa to Eka Roopa and then to Virat Roopa? Does it happen automatically once the seeker starts his devotion from Eka Roopa? See, first thing, in no growth, there's a thing called automatic. Any type of growth, you have to make a conscious effort. That's the only way to move from any level to next level. So wherever you are, let's say that you are at 60. Now for you to move from 60 to 62, you have to put in conscious effort. Now 90 to 95, you have to put in conscious effort. 1991, you have to put that extra effort. In that extra effort that you put in defines the whole thing. So then what happens is you start feeling that's normal. That's automatic for you. For example, for those who attend the Gita lecture series once a year, one day of the lectures I have seen people coming. Every year they come for one day, one of those 5 days. But one day they'll come. Either they'll come on the first day, mostly it will be either the first day or the last day. And there are people who come all the 5 days. The Gita lecture series once a year. And then there are people like you all who come for the study classes. Every Sunday you have to come. Right? It is an effort. Isn't it? And then there are people who can do one step up, one step up, one step up. So at every stage, when you are moving, for a person who is coming for that one lecture once a year, asking him to come for 5 days, complete the lecture series. To attend all the 5 days is almost impossible for him. Now to you that 5 days looks like what? What's a big deal? Just 5 days, no? In full year, 5 days you can't allocate for yourself. Looks so casual for you, but for him that is what? At any stage, if you have to move from one to another, it has to be a conscious effort. When you are doing that conscious effort, there is always a strain. The presence of a guru makes that strain little less. You don't register that strain. That is why we worship Guru. Why we worship him is, but for his presence, that pain would be unbearable. Without him, it is not possible. With him, there is no guarantee. Remember, you can't say, I am sitting under his feet all the time, 24/7, therefore I will grow. No, that will not happen. So, with him, no guarantee. But without him, impossible. Now that the choice is yours. So, any spiritual effort. Now coming to the specific idea, whether you are going to be practicing Karma Yoga, you are going to practice Bhakti Yoga, or you are going to practice Jnana Yoga. The rule is same. You have to consciously work. It is not automatically you will grow. There is no such thing. This is general work. Now coming to the specific one, it says, so how is it possible to grow spiritually from Aneka Roopa to Eka Roopa and then to Virat Roopa? Now we have to go to the way in which most of us get acquainted with God. How do you get acquainted with God? The basics you need to understand. First thing is, God, you understand, you start relating to God not out of your perception. God God is not available for seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Not possible. So the only way you can connect to God is through inference. Remember. You have to infer the presence of God. That's all. It is just an inference. Now, inference means what? Straight away application of buddhi comes into picture. Logic comes into picture. What is the inference? It's a fundamental inference. Now, I am seeing the world, and this world is not possible to be created by itself. Because nothing in the world I have seen getting created on its own. If there is a camera which is capturing me, there has to be a creator of that camera. By itself, all the elements is not going to come together suddenly. Someone must have done that. Same way, I see the world. When I see the world in a particular order, I infer, remember. That's what he calls as you posit. Postulation is what? Inference. You infer. It's not just an assumption. You infer and say that is. Then what we understand, how we get acquainted in life practically. What thought association you would have had? Your grandfather or grandmother would have taken you to some temple or church or mosque or gurudwara. Wherever they go, they would have taken you. Correct? And then you keep going. What were you doing there? Have you seen God there? Nothing. You go to the temple and see what? The temples will be having, but not even granite floors and this, that. Only now we have all that. What will you do there? You keep running around. You play hide and seek. We used to play hide and seek in the temple. So we'll go there and play because pillars are broad enough to, you are so small then. Now you are different size. Tirumala Nayakar, pillar is needed now to cover you. Google it and see. Tirumala Nayakar pillars. Huge there. You need about 3-4 fellows to hold, hands to cover that. Huge one. You just play there, that's all. It's just a good place for you to, open space for you to play around. And when kids were playing, in those days, no one would come and interrupt. They say, oh, this is not the place to, play all that. You are supposed to sit and pray to God and all that. Nothing of that sort. You say, hey, first go and have that darshan. Why you go to that darshan? Because they are distributing prasad. Prasad vaangin, ask. You say, yes. Then you play. If you have not taken that prasad, what you have to do? Go. Have prasad. This is how we get introduced to God. You see. Then what happens? You go to another place. You go to another temple. You go to school. Suddenly another fellow comes and says, I am going to that temple. You say, I go to Kapaleshwara temple. Another fellow says, I go to Keshav Perumal temple. Oh, Keshav Perumal? Another fellow comes and says, not Keshav Perumal, Srinivasa Perumal. Then what you do? You say, okay, let's see, no? Because as kids, we always have that Curiosity to know what is that. So you go to that temple, you go to this temple, you go to this temple, and each temple you will find something attractive. You see, some temple you get that attraction. That is how we start. This is the first stage of Aneka Roopa. Aneka Roopa, why you have to give Aneka Roopa is because there is no direct perception. If you can see this is what he is, then it is so easy. Now here we have no way to know. If it is not inferential by you, it has to be exactly like in your family they talk about your great-grandfather. You know what my great-grandfather did? This is what did that this. Did you see that? Okay. Has your father seen that? No. Even to your father also, it is a hearsay. Your father heard about his grandfather, whom his memory about his grandfather is vague memory. There is no clear memory or anything. But it is so interesting when you try to recollect your grandparents or your great-grandparents, early stage, it will appear to you as though it is so clear. You see that? It will appear clear to you. I have a very clear memory. It will look like that. Remember, never trust your memory. You see? Why? Why? Memory is what you have reinforced. Something comes and then you go on repeating it. That's why it gets deeper. That's all it is. You say, I have a very clear memory of my great-grandfather. A memory you have. A memory only you have. But then you believe whatever they said. On what basis? Inference? Perception? Neither perception nor inference. No pratyaksha pramana or anumana pramana. Then what is it? You believe in your grandfather, no? Great-grandfather stories, right? On what basis? That is called Shabda Pramana. Agama Pramana, we call it as. It is called Shabda Pramana. You hear about them. Why? Because there is no reason I have to believe that my father will be giving a wrong information about his grandfather to me. There is no reason. Therefore, I take it whatever he says as fact. Not because he is a great historian. You can't say, is your father a historian to record about what happened? Anthropology. Anthropology, no? Anthropologist. No. He's a clerk. He's a clerk in this one, and how he can talk about what happened about 100 years back? You are not an expert in that, he said. But still, with reference to his grandfather, when he is telling to you, you take it as fact. This is the Shabda Pramana. So, based on that Shabda Pramana, you keep hearing about stories. Along with that, your personal associations with specific things come. Then you hear about many such gods. So, what happens there is two sets of group will get created. One group says, look here, only Kapaleshwara temple is a real temple. All other temples are useless. That's the best. Another comes and says, no, Keshava Perumal is the best. Kapaleshwara temple is a Perumal is much older. He is the original God who was residing there. Shiva just came and joined. His addition. Original is Keshav Perumal. And the fight will come. Or more liberal, more Catholic would be to say that that is also a form of God, this is also a form of God. That story is also correct, this story is also correct. But then, if you stay there, problem again. This is where most of us have got involved today. The last generation made a mistake of what? Only Kapalishwara. Keshav Perumal, no. Now what are we doing? Or the other way around. Only Keshav Perumal. And in between that also fight also happens. Between Keshav Perumal and Srinivasa Perumal there is a fight. There they share the wall. The Keshav Perumal temple in Melapur, if you go. Keshav Perumal and Srinivasa Perumal are like this. They are just, adjacent, just next door. But I know people who go to Keshav Perumal Koil, they will not even look in the direction of Srinivasa Perumal. And there are people who go to Srinivasa Perumal, they don't go to Keshav Perumal. Both are Perumal devotees. Amazing to see. That is wrong, we said. Since we said that is wrong, we have got to the other extreme of what? Keshav Perumal also correct. Srinivasa Perumal also correct. Kapalishwara also correct. Karneshwara also correct. Ballishwara also correct. Nanjundeshwara also correct. This is also correct. That is also correct. Sandal Church also correct. This is also correct. Yeah, Buddha also correct. Mahavira also correct. Everybody is correct. Right? Now what happens? You are lost in the flood. There is nothing to hold on to. You need something to hold on. If you are going to be absolutely open, you are in trouble again. Because when you keep the windows open, what happens? Doors and windows all open. What happens? You get good light, good ventilation. Along with that, what you get? Mosquitoes also will come. Isn't it? Mosquitoes will come, dirt will come, dust will come, all that will come. And you have to suffer. This is the problem of being open. The fact that you are open, there is one problem. If you are stuck with only one, you get into another problem. What is that? That we all of us know. This problem all of us know. What? Sir, that is fanaticism. That is being closed. You can't say that's the only thing. No. That is wrong. So, what did we do? Since we criticized that as wrong, immediately we ran to the other extreme. You see, if that generation made that mistake, current generation is making this mistake. From this, we said, all forms, everybody is correct. Earlier generation said only my system is correct, all other systems are wrong. My God is correct, all other gods are wrong, false God. Only my God is right God. If that is wrong, this also has one error, the other extreme. What is the flaw here? The problem is, along with that, all the garbage also comes up because you kept it open. Remember the example. Therefore, what are we supposed to do? No. Close all the doors. Then what happens? No fresh air. Mosquitoes, what to do now? Close the doors. Close all the doors. No mosquitoes will come, but no air also will be there. You get suffocated. Either you suffer from suffocation or you suffer from fresh air along with that mosquitoes also. Choice is yours. Vedanta says, no, I give you another choice. What does it mean? Have a netted door. That's all. Vedanta says, no. Have the door, but have a net. What happens there? Air will come, but will not be blowing like how we get usually. But circulation air will be there. There is no problem for that. But mosquitoes cannot come. That is the system here. There, what they say, you start with all gods. First, understand that all are gods only. All the temples, all these gurudwaras, or all these churches, or mosques, and this and that, wherever you go, all those places are places of worship. Every one of them have a sanctity. That's the point of contact of divinity. Example, the king and the cow. Go back to the last class. Okay. Example now. You should know how to get the milk from the cow. Automatically cow will give. But automatically it will not give milk. Automatically it will give solid and liquid. That is automatic. Milking you have to extract. This stretch you have to do. So first what you do, open, and then what you have to do, choose one of that and stay. So stage 1, what were you doing? You are seeing, you are choosing certain places of divinity in certain forms of divinity and connecting through that form in that place alone, not everywhere. Then you say what? You cannot say God will be accessible only in one point, the entire universe or the entire planet Earth. There is only one place where God can be found. He cannot be found anywhere else. It's not possible. Government of India, where you get for everything you have to go to Parliament only. That's not possible. You see, when you have to pay income tax, where do you go? You don't go to Parliament. And say Parliament is the only point of contact. It's not practical. Your house tax you have to pay. Where will you go? All that is government only. But for each one you go to different places. But all that you understand is what? One government. Same way, God cannot be in only that one place. God is everywhere. Meaning every temple first. Right? When I say temple, you put slash, etc. All that. I can't keep repeating every time. Right? Wherever you is, all the temples, in all the forms you have. But then, invariably, your personality has a particular one. What is that particular one? 11th chapter we will see. Okay. Comes there. Why is that particular one, sir? Why is it that you are having an affinity towards that particular? Right? But that's interesting. One. Of that, you choose that one. Then what happens? Your vision is still restricted. This restriction is what? All the temples you have equal respect, but my personal preference is this particular temple, this particular deity, this particular form, this particular god, then what is the possibility of God not being present in other places? The temple came first or God came first? Ramayana, if you see, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Mahabharata, if you read, nowhere you will find that Rama visited temples. Arjuna visited temples. There was no temple those days. Temples and all came much later. There were no temples. They were visiting places only. They will go to a place, Kshetra. They go to that particular land, that's all. Kashi you go to the place Kashi, not Vishwanath temple. No, that's all later. See, Kshetras only they were going. Or the rivers. They choose certain spots. Why did they choose certain spots like that, sir? Because that's the most beautiful spot. Of all the things, most beautiful dimension of a river is where? When one river merges with another river. That Sangam. It is so beautiful. So, the river itself is beautiful. In that river, that particular spot where they meet, that meeting point. And imagine 3 rivers were to meet. How beautiful that will be. Wow. Fix that. Then they went to the mountain tops. Most scenic spots. You wanted to go. You stand there and look around. So divine it is. There's no necessity for you to have that deity, God. Not necessary. That spot is enough. Why? This is where you get this next growth. Your ability to relate to the divine presence beyond the deity, beyond the temple. That is the 10th chapter, Virat Roopa. Here is the 10th, 11th, 10th chapter. No? I referred 11th chapter, no? Sometime back. That's why I got confused. Are we doing 11th or 10th? Because you have to relate to that of the gods, you choose one. Why do you choose? Why do you choose like that? Same Krishna. Right. Surdas relates to Krishna in one way. Mirabai relates to Krishna in another way. Why? Balakrishna, you don't get inspired today. Today people get more interested about political Krishna. Why? Because you are interested in politics. Since you are carrying a political mind, since you are having such cunningness in you, Krishna's cunningness is attracting. Isn't it? Innocence of Krishna will not be attractive today. Isn't it? As you talk about that innocence of Krishna, there is nothing exciting for us now. What is exciting to all of us is what today? Legality. Somehow we have to find fault. See, only then we are happy. Appa. Why? That's what our mind is today. Mirabai was able to relate to Krishna in a particular angle. Why? Remember, life for all of us is relationships. It means relationship, 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 relationship. Remove relationships, life is extinct. There's no life. If there's no relationship, there's no life. Invariably, every human being will have one or few relationships which were having a craving not being fulfilled. You wanted to have it, but you are not able to get it satisfied with any fellow being's relationships. It is not possible for me to have it. I am not satisfied with it. So what he does then? He takes Krishna to be that. Arjuna had a tremendous expectation of a craving, a wanting, a desire in him to have a fantastic friendship with Ashwatthama, miserably failed. Arjuna wanted to be a friend of Ashwatthama. Miserable failure. That craving is there. That needs to be filled up. If that is not filled up, that personality will suffer. Internally, psychologically suffering will be there. You can't escape. How do you fill it with? With what you can fill it? Take a particular aspect of God to fill that vacuum. Then my system is balanced. Otherwise, there is a defect, there is a lacuna, there is a vacuum. And the moment there is a vacuum inside, that vacuum will suck in the rest also. It will spread. And all relationships will get spoiled because of it. So, why do you choose this? This is the reason. We will see that detail in the 11th chapter. There it comes, much better. You see? But this is the idea. The idea is this. So, of all that, invariably you will choose. It's not that you are making any consciously, okay, I'm going to make a choice. Okay, this Krishna only, that Krishna only, that Rama, this. No. That aspect of Rama only you can relate to. Not to any other aspect of Rama. That aspect of this only you can connect. This is the idea. This is how you choose. A person who has the smartness to understand will understand that and make a choice. And he knows why he is making the choice. Then what happens? You keep going in that. A point would come where there is a possibility that you can again slip into the old pattern of what? Becoming fanatic. So now what you have to do? Now you have to expand further. Now what is expansion? Don't say God is temple. No. God is everywhere. Now today our problem is, without going through any one of these steps, straight away all of us have started speaking about God is everywhere, God is everywhere. That's where the problem is. There's no proper bhakti training we have today. Even though we talk about bhakti a lot, I have not seen anywhere people give training on bhakti. You say bhakti, bhakti and all. What you know bhakti is what? Singing bhajan. I am not saying it is not. Because I have been to bhajans for 3 hours, 4 hours and all. So bhajans wake up in the morning and run for that. It's not that I am against it. But that's not. Training is different. Bhakti training is different. Now everyone is not qualified to make that statement. God is everywhere. We just use we have heard somewhere. Somebody said God is everywhere, and you also say God is everywhere, God is everywhere, God is everywhere. Without knowing any meaning of any one of these words. God you don't know the meaning, is you don't know the meaning, everywhere also you don't know the meaning. Empty words. And you started believing yourself to be having the knowledge. That's the tragedy. So 10th chapter is for a person who has picked up that deity, he is moving in the direction and he is seemingly appearing to be falling back to bordering into that fanaticism. Right? He just borders into fanaticism. So what you have to do now? Now you can't tell him God is in all temples because he has already crossed it. See, where is God now? When you are a child, you are told what? Temple only. Now today, to a child we start telling what? God is everywhere. A child doesn't understand a word of it. He's saying, where is milk? Milk is everywhere. Everything is milk only. Now who is qualified to make that statement? Everyone is not qualified. Don't ever make that statement, God is everywhere. You are not fit to talk about it. So what you have to do now? I am seeing God in the temples, then because of that particular vacuum in me, if no vacuum is there in me, I don't need any training. I am already paripurna. So if you say, there is no emotional vacuum inside me, if a person says, that means either he is paripurna or totally empty. Delusion. First chapter. Arjuna in the first chapter category. See, we are ready to move from first chapter. What to do now? Not possible. So this needs to be fixed. The context needs to be fixed first. The context of the chapter. Assumption is, as we are studying, we have grown. That's the assumption in the text. Right? So after he comes to that one form, one deity, one way of relating to God, there is a good possibility that he will get stuck there. So what you have to do now? The mind is contracted. Now you have to expand it. Vishala buddhi is needed. So for that purpose we are doing. The mind's vishala. Not buddhi vishala. Buddhi vishala is jnana. This is mano vishala. So for what you are doing this 10th chapter of the Gita, for the sake of mano vishala. So what is that vishalam, sir? It is moving from Eka Roopa not to Aneka Roopa, remember. No. That particular deities were different. Now we are moving, expansion now is beyond that deity, beyond that temple, you see God's presence, expression in all forms. And don't believe that Arjuna is understanding anything. Right? Arjuna is not following Krishna at all actually. The proof is, Krishna is telling Arjuna, among the Pandavas I am Arjuna. What he should have told? Excuse me, wait. I am Vyasa, you say, I don't care. You say. For you and me, reading, among the Pandavas I am Arjuna, has no meaning. Among the Parvatas, I am Himalaya. Okay, let it be. What is a Parvata? Because I am not Parvata. No problem. He is telling that Arjuna is not registering that. That's a proof. Krishna had a pathetic student. Poor man. But still he speaks as though he had such a great student. That's not greatness of Krishna. That's why we call him Jagadguru. Such a pathetic fellow. Praises him to the skies as though he is like Upanishadic student. Jagadguru. So here, this is the purpose of the chapter. And also I said, the purpose of the chapter is this. Is for your abhyasa. Earlier he mentioned in the 6th chapter, Abhyasena kaunteya, vairagyena duhyate, says no, same way. There, that abhyasa. What is the bhakti abhyasa? Karma abhyasa is different. Jnana abhyasa is different. Here it is bhakti abhyasa. Bhakti abhyasa means it is emotions, it means relationships. It is with reference to your mind. There what you have to practice. Here the practice is to keep repeating this and seeing. Straining your eyes to see it. Like how those old people see it. They say, because the light is too much. Eyes, So sometimes they hear also. Yes. What did you say? They have to strain to see. In the same way, we have to strain to see God in. For that, He gives very many clues. He goes on giving the clues. And in this practice, in your emotional maturity, if you see carefully, the way we were progressing in the spiritual path, you get stuck in one space and move into another angle. Okay. Now Eka Rupa and Aneka Roopa is not there. That all are over one angle. Another angle is this. Before you have come into spiritual path, initiated into the path, your entire concentration, your whole involvement is in the world. Isn't it? You are totally lost in the world. You are totally believing that the world is going to provide you happiness, is going to give you peace, is going to give you this, it's going to give you security, or going to give you fulfillment, satisfaction, etc. All that. Because of that belief alone, you were pursuing the world. Okay. Now, to that person, what did they say? To the person who is totally believing that wealth, name, fame, power, relationship, position, status, all that is going to give me happiness. What did Vedanta tell him? Is no, man. There is no pleasure at all. There is only pain, dukkhalayam. He said no. Isn't it? Dukkhayoneya. It's a temple of sorrow. It's a wombs of sorrow. It is all pain. And you read those scriptures. What all the problem? You feel that, sort of a vijigupsa you get. You start getting sort of an aversion to the world. In fact, that advice was given to you to develop that vairagya. Right? In the process of developing vairagya, invariably a sort of asuya or the sort of asuya also comes. That's another angle. We'll see the next. Okay. Along with that, as a side effect, what you can get, one is this, is the irritation with reference to the world. A sort of, which is also a very strong term, sort of aversion. You see, you are expected to get detachment, not aversion. But invariably, what will happen is you will get aversion to the world. You start saying, what is this world like this? Why? That's what we have seen. Vajagovindam and all, when you study the text. That's an introductory text we say. Why did we say introductory text? Vajagovindam is an introductory text. Why? Same Advaita only he speaks, no, there also. Why we say? Not because of the text, it is because of the context of the text. The text is addressed to that person. To whom Vajagovindam is? The one who is totally lost in the world, believing that the world is going to give him security. He is pursuing wealth. He is pursuing women. Why? Pleasure. Kanchana, Kamini. So I believe that wealth is going to give me security. I go for that. I believe that enjoyment world is going to give, so I pursue this. So what I am doing? Lost in that. To him, Vajagovindam text, like there are many texts are there like that. Okay. In our context, I am referring to the text, Vajagovindam. Other texts, if I refer, you will start reading all that. That's why I am not referring. Okay. So if you read Bhatrahari's, Vairagya Shatakam or the works of the people and all that, Pratipaksha Bhavana they give. You look at it from different angle. When you look at it from different angle, you see what? God, I am putting in so much of effort, and this guy wealth is promising me to be giving me security, but he never gives. Proof is what? You started pursuing gold with the belief gold will protect you. After acquiring gold, what is happening now? You are protecting that. Hey, I come to you. It's like, security guard. I keep a security guard to protect me. Now, after appointing him, he says what? Now you have to protect me. Only then I can protect you. Yes. So if anybody comes to attack, first you have to go. Cheating, no? This is exactly what wealth is doing. When we say this, what happens? After that, the way you look at wealth is what? You are supposed to. Okay. We are talking about a person who actually sees that. Yeah, correct, no? When he sees that, what is the first reaction he will have internally? How he will see all those people who are pursuing wealth? All those fellows are, instead of you developing vairagya towards wealth, you start developing irritation with reference to people around you. And irritation with reference to the wealth itself. To such a person, Vibhuti Yoga. Instead of vairagya, you develop a dvesha. Vijigupsa will be a very strong term. That becomes much later. Vijigupsa, different one. But this dvesha, you start hating it. You start hating wealth. You are asked to get detached from wealth, But to get that detachment, they have to explain to you what all the negatives there, what all the lacunas there, what all that you see, how much effort you put in, what you get out of it. It's not commensurating, man. It's like you are making an investment of 5,000 crores investment. Profit is 5 lakhs. Guaranteed. 5 lakhs guaranteed. But investment is 5,000 crores. Hate the business that is. You simply keep the money in the bank, you will get more. You can sleep. You don't have to do any business. A sensible fellow will do that instead of doing this. You say, I'm investing that much, I'm getting it. Now, if I say that, sir, your investment is about 7 crores and you get a definite profit of 5 lakhs monthly, not your quarter. There's some meaning in that. You may try, you can say maybe it will grow, this, that. Here, 5,000 crores you have to make it. That's exactly what you are doing. So, 10th chapter, what it does, it offsets that one. What is it? It retains that vairagya, removes the dvesha part of it. That's all. That is the 10th chapter. That's why this chapter is very important. For a spiritual people who are working on, the chapter is valid. What is the validity of the chapter, sir? It will keep the vairagya. But along with vairagya, you will develop dvesha. Suppose if a person says, I have developed vairagya without any dvesha at all, sir, he is faking. It is impossible. You come along with that. And then you have to put in specific effort to pluck that point of it. Only that facet you have to remove. To remove that facet, what you have to do? In bhakti, this is the method. Bhakti yoga does this. Karma yogi will work in a different way. Jnana yogi will work in a different way. Now we are studying bhakti here. Right. This middle 6 in the Gita focuses on bhakti, devotion. See, so here what is happening? This is one. Another aspect we see here is as you keep putting your effort in the spiritual path, third angle, fourth angle, I don't know, whatever. Right. Another angle, another aspect of it is, as you are working in the spiritual path, what you will be doing? You are striving towards what? From selfish to unselfish, unselfish to selfless. So first step is what? From selfish to unselfish. Right. So your first effort is what now? You are working on to delete the negativities in you and start promoting the positive quality in you. Gunas. And he'll give the list. So many gunas are there. All those things. Or inherently you may be having a head start. The spiritual. You may have that head start somewhere. You see, you will have certain particular talents. Some of them have that inherited. Right. Some of it can be developed. You strive, you develop. Sometimes you will have it on your own. From birth you will have it. Naturally, you see. When you have such qualities, when such qualities emerge in you, invariably you slip into what? Assuming that that quality belongs to me. It is my greatness, my goodness. Right? That can trigger a peculiar ego in you. Right? You are good. The fact that you are so charitable, the charitable nature of yours can create a ego in you. You are so kind. You are so compassionate. You have that titiksha, all those qualities. See, each one have got their own. I know people who have fascinating titiksha. The ability to stay with such impossible situations, such ease, they're able to. It's amazing to see such people. And there are people who are so charitable. They just give. They just cannot imagine. They can't live without giving. Wherever they go, whoever they meet, what I can give you, what I can give you. There are people like that. And there are fellows compassionate. They see a movie and start crying. It's just a Asamalar movie. Shivaji Ganesan Savitri. They have to take 25 takes for that. Cut. And these people sit there and cry. Oh, what a brother he is. What a sister she is. Oh, that means what? Her brother or sister is like that. If she were to have a brother like that, will she cry? She will say what? Obviously, man. That's what brother means, no? He will not cry. The fact that the people cry means what? Brother-sister sentiment. In the 70s, this Thali sentiment was fascinating, big one, in a movie. Oh, the Mangal Sutra. That sentiment was very heavy. Today you make a movie with the Thali sentiment, will you go? Not run today. Why? It's not there. Now today you tell, you have the Thali. You say, it is unnecessary hanging, weight. So what did I do? It's hanging in the cupboard. Or I have kept it in the locker. Very expensive. Today it won't work. 22 it will not work. In the 70s, 80s. That's why today's kids, when they watch those movies, this Pasamalar, you say, why so much of drama? This girl says, we took her to that movie, Karnan, Shivaji Ganesan, acted as Karnan. It came in that, revived some 4K, something it came. So we all took her. He says, everything is okay, but why this Krishna is looking very fake? Why? All the time smiling. Why is putting up a fake smile all the time? You see Krishna's? All Krishna you see, the fake smile is there. He is asking me, and the fake smile he is having all the time. The battlefield he is walking, right, with a smile. He says, how can you walk in the battlefield with a smile? Weirdo this fellow. But in those days, what was it? It's like, oh my God. Today it is not. You strive to develop certain qualities. When you have certain qualities, invariably those qualities will necessarily trigger what? Ego in you. Particularly, if it is worked and developed, one way. Naturally gifted, another way. Either case, one thing is for sure. What is it now? He says, you will have that one. So when you are having that, what happens? That ahankara comes. Now how do you delete that ahankara? That ego of yours? How can you eliminate that? Vibhuti Yoga helps you to eliminate it. By what? If I have the ability to speak, right, is it mine? Say, is Krishna's speech. Krishna, immediately don't say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. In the context, Krishna. If you are studying Shiva, then it is Shiva's one. If it is this, that's one. If it is this, this. If you take it as Brahman, it is Brahman's glory. It's the glory of Brahman. That's a beautiful part. Fitting in so nicely actually. This ahankara, that ego that comes. Now, the same ahankara, that quality, if you have it, ahankara, when someone else have it, that's what I said, asuya. See, if I have that great quality, I have that ego. If someone else were to be having that some glorious this thing, what do you get? Jealousy. How do you remove jealousy then? I will say, how to remove jealousy, sir? I feel jealous. I see somebody having things. I feel so jealous. Now you can tell him, accept it. Accept it. Now what accept? I am not able to accept is what he is saying. And you are telling him, accept it. Is that? No. Vibhuti Yoga does what? It says, all this glory is not his. It is direction now. It is not this way, that way. Just a simple angle difference. 90 degrees, eh? 90 degrees you got to shift. Slowly shift. You don't have to shift directly. Slowly shift it. It's not his, man. All the glory that you are seeing is not because of. Yeah, that's what the problem is. Why we feel jealous is because I am not able to accept the fact that somebody has something which I wish I have it. Right? Then the whole relationship is what? That individual and this individual. The moment you understand it is neither his nor mine, then what happens? After that, how can you feel jealous of that fellow? It's like Dr. Johnson's example. Dr. Johnson, he says, in the dream, you have a debate. Okay, another fellow won. He is winning. He is bringing arguments, fascinating arguments. And you are not able to counter that fellow at all because he is too knowledgeable. He is too precise. He is too clear. And he could rip open the weakness in your arguments. What do you feel now? Whose intelligence is that? That intelligence of that fellow belongs to whom? That's all he says. That's why the chapter is important. See, 10th chapter introduction is a bigger one actually. Because fitting the context of the chapter is a difficulty here. Because most of us take the chapter so light, forgetting the context of the chapter. The context of the chapter has all these angles. Now, one we say is this. Say a person who has this, to that mano vishalam to have. Another one we see is the person to move from, facilitating you to move from that Eka Roopa to Virat. Don't say Aneka Roopa, okay? Another one is to remove the dvesha. How can you remove that ahankara? And how can you remove the asuya? Right? Fascinating chapter. This portion is an amazing portion because we just use the word. Upanishads will refer that term, God is all pervading. But how do you establish God is all pervading? That's a challenge. To bring that all pervasiveness of God to your understanding and your perception. Perception not in the visual eyes, the jnana chaksha, not with your physical eye. Physical eye you cannot see. The jnana chaksha to see that perception to get is the context of the 10th chapter. Remember the context and then read the chapter. It is so inspiring. If you don't understand the context, the chapter will look, I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. Now, boring, man. Okay, move. I have seen people just reading through. Gada, 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 they read and go. This chapter is meant for you to keep on repeating. Why you have to do this? What is the reference? If God is the one who had created this world, and I do not know, I have not seen him, it's only inferential, remember. And obviously, what all that inference gives us, couple of things we understand. If God has to create this universe, for a person to create that camera, how much intelligence is needed? X amount of intelligence needed. For a person to create the table, how much intelligence is needed? Why? For a person to create the laptop, how much intelligence needed? For a person to create the specs, how much intelligence needed? For a person to create the mic, how much needed? For a person to create a language, intelligence. Now imagine camera, table, laptop, specs, mic, language. Of course, I am not adding all that. The rest are all. I go on. Imagine one fellow doing all that. What must be his intelligence? Right? He is a gold medalist where now? Swimming. Gold medal. Okay. And then he comes here, athletics. 100 meters, a gold medal. And 400, a gold medal. And then javelin, gold medal. And then shooting, gold medal. Imagine one fellow. All medals in the Olympics. Only one fellow is getting. What he must be? Huh? Superman only will get it. Who will get it? There is a chance. Now we see so much of variety in the world. So the one who had created the world must be having what? Inference only. These are all. You see, if that person were to be having, this needs one head. To create a camera, one head. To create a table, one head. There is one brain. One head means one brain. One brain, two hands. 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 Imagine that one fellow created all that. How many heads he must be having? How many hands he must be having? Can you say he had only one head? Can you add only two hands? Like Kartavirya Arjuna, you must be. Even Kartavirya Arjuna is an ordinary fellow. Kartavirya Arjuna, Ravana, no? He is much older than Ravana. Kartavirya Arjuna is much older than Ravana. Ravana is a kid in front of him. A bacha. Ravana. Rama has to fight with him for 24 days to kill him. Imagine Rama has to fight Kartavirya Arjuna. But still continuing, it will be going on. Parasurama killed him. And what is the greatness of Rama? Rama subdued that Parasurama. Semi-finals, finals. Same finals, this fellow won over. This fellow came qualified for finals. In finals, we won over. That's all. So we have won over Kartavirya. That's the meaning of it. Oh, so many acts, so many things. All that aspect, everything that is glorious, also everything that is negative, also that. Both he says. I am death, he says. I am death. I am forgetfulness, which we don't like. We are forgetting everything nowadays. Why? Good no. By remembering all that, all junk only you remember. You forget, better no. You say, I keep forgetting. You keep forgetting. So what? Forgetfulness is also who? Me. Death is who? Me. All the glorious things, all that we admire, all that we detest. He says, me. That's why even though it is a defect, dosha, according to the scriptures, that's allowed here. Repetition. Goes on repeating that. I am this, I am this, I am this. So get the context clear first of the 10th chapter. Then if you read the chapter, it is so inspiring. The 10th and 11th, both. Because it's just two different ways of putting it across the same idea. Same idea, presented analytical here, synthetic there, that's all. Visual. So it's the same idea, it is 10th and 11th chapter. So remember that. 7, 9, 10, 11. 7, 9, 10, 11. These 4 chapters, this comes from one angle, this comes from one angle. Both these angles is a build-up for the climax of the 12th chapter, Bhakti, where he explains what is Bhakti. Fascinating position. That's why we wonder how this man could have presented this whole thing with such precision and system. 8th chapter is just a slight deviation. That's all. That's why I am not including 8. Strictly speaking, I have to keep 8 also as one of the aspects. So 7, 9, 8, 10, 11. This 3 set is just a build-up for Bhakti Yoga, which is the 12th chapter. So you got to wait till then. Right? Only then it is complete. But in between when we say, because suddenly we find here Krishna branching off to something. And in this chapter, very unique thing about the chapter is Arjuna is not asking a question in the chapter, he is only placing a request. It is a request from Arjuna, 10th and 11th. This chapter has another uniqueness. In all other chapters, Arjuna asks a question. He is asking Krishna to elaborate something, a concept, explain a concept, prove something. What are you speaking? Says, give me guidance. All that is clarifications and questions and inquiries. Here it's a request. Suddenly you see the tone changing. 10 and 11. Of course, from 13 again it goes to something else. Okay, so again he switches over to things because he is not an established person. But however, he is brilliant. He could flow with Krishna nicely. At least during the sermon, perhaps. After that, he just settles down at his own level. But the temporary inspiration is there in Arjuna. So, 10 and 11, what is uniqueness are? 10 and 11 is only a requisition. First chapter, he gives an order. Right? He says, Sedayor Bhyor Madhye Ratam Sthapayame Achyuta. Go and place the chariot. It is an order. Okay, not a requester. The tone is not like, you see, when we chant, we don't understand all that. You see, you just go on chanting, you chant. This is not the way you are supposed to do actually. The chanting is for us to memorize the ideas. That's why they made it into musical. But factually, you have to understand it's a conversation. Right? They are speaking with each other. There is a dialogue. So Arjuna first gives order and then he says, I am not able to see any chance. Throws a challenge at Krishna, as it were, in the second chapter. You try, Krishna, if you can revive me, revive me. But I don't see any chance I don't see any solution to my problem. If you want to try, you try. It's as good as he is throwing a challenge at Krishna. Third chapter, he says, you confuse me. He is accusing Krishna. You see, very many shades you see throughout the Gita. So one he does that, one he does that only. What is so fascinating in this two chapters is, only these two places, 10th and 11th is the only place where he is requesting. He's not accusing, he's not ordering, he's not expecting Krishna to explain. It's not a question, not clarification, nothing. Requesting. That bhavana is beautiful. When you go there, you can see the tone of Arjuna. When you ask him the question in the 11th verse, I think 11th verse, if I'm correct, 11th or 12th. When he asks the question. Superb tone, changing. And then, Krishna takes off. Oof. Going on and on and on. And then he concludes that is a fascinating conclusion in the chapter. What is the details of all these things to you, Arjuna? Useless. Why? I can't detail it. This entire universe is just a speck. Now, what are you asking me? Just a speck. Of what details to this to you, man? Waste of time. But after giving the details, he's not telling you the first. He gives the details. Details he goes. And there you don't expect me to explain much. Explain me, I have to tell story like Kartavirya today. Now I have to tell you who is Kartavirya, why Parshurama has to kill Kartavirya. All is a story. Now if we want to do like that, 10th chapter will keep on going. As it is, we keep on going like good stream. Right? Now if I start explaining that also means it will go on and on. This chapter, that's why people do this as a parayana. This chapter is done as parayana. Why? This is the reason. Why they chose the chapter carefully. For those who are having this problem. When you are stuck in that phase of bhakti, when you are stuck here in your spiritual effort, if you are stuck here, stuck there, how to pull you out without you getting into another problem. You see, so that's why this chapter is fascinating. In the name of Vairagya, you will develop that dvesha will come. The dvesha without falling into the dvesha and retain that Vairagya. That's the point. You see, otherwise it's nothing inside. So just remove the side effect only. Just the side effect of dvesha alone to be removed from Vairagya. See, that you will not get from Pratipaksha Bhavana. Pratipaksha Bhavana will give you what? Vairagya coupled with dvesha. Okay, if you are going to be getting Vairagya, if you believe that I am going to get with Pratipaksha Bhavana, I am going to get only Vairagya, no dvesha at all. It's not possible. You will get it. You have to work exclusively to remove that, but for that Pratipaksha Bhavana will not help. That is it, he say, this Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga to be practiced together. There is no exclusive Jnana. Pratipaksha bhavana is exclusive jnana yoga, practice that is. So when you are practicing that jnana yoga, which is so effective to pull you out of your samsaric involvement of kanchana kamini, acquisition and enjoyment. But invariably, you will get into this. And what is going to help you to pull out this dvesha? Retain vairagya. That is pure vairagya. That is the state of the 5th chapter. Sannyasa yoga. You see? Now, then you will go to that sannyasa yoga. But then, sir, I am stuck here, what to do? Bhakti is the best medicine for that problem. Jnana will not help much. Karma will not help much. For this problem, bhakti alone will help. So you need the training in bhakti. I don't know who is talking about these things nowadays in the bhakti yoga format. Good that we have a text like Bhagavad Gita. Thanks to Krishna, explained to all of us. He says, this is the way, man, to get out. That's why we say it's a complete text. We'll start the text for proper next class.